truth of the fact is that as a person who grew up in the US, I made the Aliyah to serve my military duty in Israel and took a vow to raise my family in Israel. But all my life, since I remember myself, I've been active in bringing people together. And bringing people together is when I started working in the high tech. I was the first one who migrated all the Microsoft products into Hebrew. I worked with the Palestinians. I opened a software house in Jordan. And I really took it as a personal mission to connect people around. It was a personal mission in life. And I had the privilege that in 2017 I was nominated to be... Anyway, I'll stand up for a second. And in 2017, I was nominated to be the chairman of the Israel Export and International Corporation, since the high tech became the largest portion of our export. I led the Export Institute when we started, it was 106 billion US dollars. And by 2021, we actually exceeded 136 billion US dollars of export. And I had the privilege to lead the export while we had the COVID-19, the epidemic, and Abraham Accord started maturing. And I felt that for our generation, it's really a mission for life to change the old neighborhood, and we should not miss it. Because this whole Abraham Accord, it's all about economic relationship. We had no disputes with those countries. We had no conflicts with those countries. And if you look at the history, when I first came to Bahrain, before we even signed the Abraham Accord agreement, and Nunu and all the team there and the minister, they showed me that in 1936 in Bahrain, all the Jewish holidays were part of the national holidays in Bahrain. And you look at the history in Morocco and in Egypt, where the Jewish community lived in peace, the whole region was really prospered and was fruitful. And we have more commonalities than differences. As we learn our families, our ties, we're really siblings. And when I fly to the region, and I speak to Malcolm only on a weekly basis, I tell him, Malcolm, it's strange. I feel like it's my home. And it is my home. Because I said, as a leader who has to now speech and preach about conducting businesses to the region, so I went through the process to get my residence in the region. I opened my first business as the digital health innovation in the region, because part of the growth engine is healthcare, as you mentioned, and food security and so forth. Right? And it's really a mission to be a role model how to do business. Because as you remember, guys, Abraham Accord signed. All of a sudden there is the gold rush. All the Israelis are rushing to the UAE, to the region, with a big sign. They thought it was the new ATM for the region. They can just come there and grab some cash and move forward. And we said, no, it's not the ATM of the region. And that's not the relationship that we want to build. We have to go through a very professional process. We cannot skip the trust builder process. We have to learn each other, to learn the families, to become friends, then business will come. So I'm glad that my friends joined here. And I actually called Sausan. I said, Sausan, you're now living to the States. You got your first mission, but you've been so active in the region. And I want you to share with the team, what did you feel right before the Abraham Accord signed? And give some of your feeling the first year. We'll have a second discussion on what's going forward. But please, express your feelings.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, first of all. I'm really honored to be here with you today. Masal khair, sharaftuna. And it's really a dream for me to have you, our distinguished ambassadors, and to sit next to the flags that, you know, a year and a half ago wouldn't be possible. But if I want to refer back to what happened before the Abraham Accords and before establishing full diplomatic relations with Morocco, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been there very active for the last 2 decades in the Gulf countries and North Africa, assisting hundreds of Israeli companies to establish relations with local companies, making it possible for them to be there, to share their technologies, and to develop economic relations, which made it very smooth later when we signed the agreements to feel that it's natural to have economic relations with the Gulf countries and with Morocco. Now, one of the things that assisted as well was a huge activity of our of public diplomacy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that was targeting also different categories and publics in the Arab countries to reach them, to bridge the gaps, and to give them the opportunity to explore what Israel is about. So these are some of the activities we have done before as a Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In the last year, and exactly as my dear friend Adiv just mentioned, some of the Israeli men and women thought that they can pick the money from the trees in the Gulf countries or in Morocco or in other countries, and they found out that the systems are different. It doesn't work like that. You need to gain trust. And this is where, together with the economic organizations and other economic ministries, we're working together in order to expose both markets to each other's and to make it easier and to establish the right agreements and bases in order to have these ties stronger and deeper. So we've signed tens of agreements till now with all the countries. The trade volume is actually an actual figure that shows how big is the trade between the countries. We have reached billions of dollars, and it's just the beginning, so this is really remarkable. And we shouldn't forget that actually the relations that Israel has with the Arab countries are long-lasting strategic relations. This is the most important thing. We're not there for short exits. It's a long relationship based on friendship and of joint interests and shared ones. And the economic angle is a very, very important anchor of them. So this is in general, Adiv, and back to you. Thank you.
Safsan, thank you for your sharing your insight. And gentlemen, you'll excuse me, right? Because we'll have to give the ladies the first choice. What do you say? From your diplomatic level.
We'll try this one. Can you hear? Yes, you can. So, as somebody who spent 3 years in Egypt as an Israeli diplomat, I wasn't only a diplomat, I was a woman, Jewish. I was the epitome of all evil for 3 whole years, and over 40 years we couldn't manage to get normalization done, and there come Morocco and Bahrain and the Emiratis, and they sort of took the onus off of Egypt in a manner of speaking. And you know, recently I saw something that I thought I'd never see in Egypt. And by the way, I love Egypt, make no mistake. And that is a Holocaust memorial that was done by the American embassy, but allowed by the authorities, which is something quite exceptional in Egypt, despite the fact that there was a wonderful, flourishing Jewish community that has become very, 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 very small. But this is something that has a huge strategic impact on the region. And I'd say furthermore, in terms of the geostrategic impact of this groundbreaking, game-changing accord, that is the issue of Iran. The fact that we have the possibility to join hands and to really work together security-wise vis-a-vis a common threat, either by Iran itself or by its proxies. We've all been following the threat of the Houthis and, of course, other proxies such as Hezbollah, which we Israeli know very well of. The fact that there is an upcoming potential deal that may be signed by the US and the Iranians puts two, I think, main issues on the table. Such a deal may prevent from the IAEA to really supervise some sites, and that will allow Iran possibly to enrich more uranium, which is a regional threat, really a threat to all of our friends and ourselves and world stability in general. And the second thing is, if the sanctions will be taken off of Iran, it will have much more economic and financial possibility to really develop its artillery and missile capability, upon which the bomb, if it will be created, will be transported. And this is something that we need to keep in mind. There are more optimistic angles to the Abraham Accords, but this is something key, strategic, really something of a platform upon which all of our people can really base the relationship in terms of standing by one another's side, completely regardless if we are Democrats or Republicans, if we are in the opposition or coalition. And that's why the caucus, the first of its kind that was formed in the Knesset to promote the Abraham Accords, I'm heading it. I'm from the coalition, the Blue and White Party, and my co-chair is from the Likud Party. He's from the opposition. And together we really emphasize how bipartisan and really surpassing politics this issue really is for the benefit of the region in general, and of course, for the continuity of Israel in particular.
Wonderful, Ruth. Thank you very much for that insight. Kobe, when you took your mission, you had one of the biggest challenges, being in tourism while COVID is locking all the borders. At the same time, we had way too many Israelis who were traveling to the UAE, but very little who came over. As you know, in the UAE, a country that's about 10 million people, 14% are nationalities, the rest are expats. Bahrain is a small country also as well with the expats. But they have over 22 million tourists at the UAE. Israel is also a very attractive country for tourism. How will that impact our mission looking forward?
So basically about tourism, if you would look at the figures between the year 2014 to 2019, we had a big jump, peaking to 4.5 million people attending to Israel during 2019, and the first quarter was on the way to 5 million when it all stopped. So tourism all over the world was the first to impact and last to go out. Yesterday, it was our day of holiday, if you may call it, in the sense of our ministry, for the Prime Minister has lifted everything eventually, and now everybody understands that the Omicron as a variant, that the vaccination is no longer important in spreading it around, need to rethink the new elements relevant to that. Eventually let us open the skies, and we do believe that we will start see people packing back, because our main target audience, people who come from all over the world, but mainly, for instance, we're speaking about America. So we have two very important key elements in the US. One is the Jewish Jewry who would like to come back and visit their friends, their relatives. They haven't been done that for the last 2 years. And that's why it was very important to us to let those kids who want to do bar mitzvah, right? 13 years old, they want to come to the Kotel to do something about that. So that's why it was so important to us to lift this ban from unvaccinated kids. And second, it's the evangelicals, which born-again Christian that during that period of time revive again, and they want to come and visit and tour the land. So, I mean, American market, it's extremely important to us. And we look at the American market as something that will inject almost immediately a lot of people coming to Israel. But we're here on the basis of the Abraham Accord. So that year that we needed to do reconstructions because people couldn't come. we took an advantage of that time with our allies, the Dubai friends in New York. And we already started to market packages together. A regional area of coming together and not jumping for 10, 12 days between few states and getting this whole unique package of something that is new, is fresh, is updated. And being able to do that tour together, both of us, both of the allies, and that's one thing. Today, we just heard about Morocco opening the line to Israel, airline direct flights coming to Israel. And we do hope that the Bahrainian Minister of Tourism will come at the end of March to our conference. So basically, as you can see, everything lines up in the focus of tourism. And we've been fortunate that one of the first things that Ambassador Niels did was calling our minister and told him, listen, I was on that Zoom call. I'm a great believer in tourism as breaking boundaries, help people, and I want to broker whatever you need. You find a friend here helping you in the Abraham Accords. And it really deeply moved my minister, because usually the United States doesn't work on the tourism field. So for us, it was something unique, because this ambassador is willing to leverage tourism on the Abraham Accords. And he said, I'm here for you, and whatever that you need, please help me, please let me know, and I will do whatever in my power to help tourism, because that is the one single thing. Because when you visit someone, it really do help you to rethink what did you know about and what you actually get to see. You get the taste, you get to smell, you get the whole package of being somewhere else and experience its culture. So that's about that.
Yaki, before we move to you, I just want to talk to Kobe about it. You know, there is a huge difference the way Israel is presented in the media versus what people see when they come here. The hospitality, the people, the way we actually express our innovation, the way we're willing to share innovation. The world still is not aware of it. How can we, and what should we do as the Minister of Tourism to close that gap?
So basically what as I told you, before I arrived to the office only 5 months ago, but the people that were before us did tremendous job. They shifted the way Israel was branded into, instead of marketing Israel as Israel, marketing in branding way. So you would do the Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, 2 cities, 1 break. So basically, the whole idea, the whole concept was to market to people destination and let them taste life. And that worked amazingly. On top of it, during 2016, 17, 18 was the Open Sky Initiative. So many EasyJet and all the Ryanair liners came in a very affordable way. We do have a problem in the sense of how expensive is Israel. So this is something that usually when people, and we do lake a 3-star hotel. So most of the time when you would come to visit Israel, you would get 4 or 5 stars hotel. You would have to pay high prim to get your vacation. It doesn't necessarily fit to all people want to come. So during COVID, we had so many hotels of people believing that because they saw people coming in and they understand that eventually this COVID won't stay forever. And we have tremendous impact of people, and the government put up to 25% in order to help. And we actually traveling to Dubai and to Berlin to market, please come and build hotels. And as much as we'll be able to expand the number of hotels, I believe we'll be able to get more people to come because it will be more affordable rather than, for instance, travel to Turkey or Greece or something of that nature.
Thank you, Kobe. Yaki, we know each other from your time as even Elbit. We know each other for a long time. From a practicality and your experience in the region, can you share with the crowd your first step when you landed in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi? How did you feel? How did you make the progress?
Well, in Pluristem and the Abraham Accords, it's a story about life science, about health. we were fortunate when the Abraham Accord started to be one of the first companies that signed a collaboration agreement with a partner there, the Abu Dhabi Stem Cell Center. As I told you yesterday, it actually feels like coming to Bat Mitzvah again, and seeing you all guys, so I'm glad to be here. But with the first, when the Abraham Accords were signed, I got a call from the CEO of the Abu Dhabi Stem Cell Center, which I know him. We already met in conferences, and he told me, Yaki, I think it's time that we're going to work together. And Dr. Ventura is a good guy, and I really appreciate the science. And we said, let's do it. So we signed an agreement that basically we are sharing data. Our company and their organization is doing a COVID program, so we are sharing data. We're doing a co-development of products, using our sales, using their technology, and trying to build actually these bridges. If everything goes well, we're going to launch the first study together for chronic GVHD. We had an excellent visit over there, and they sent a delegation over here, and it's beautiful. You know, we did the collaborations with, of course, in the US. All of them were I was very excited about, with the DoD, with NASA in Europe, but sitting with key management in the Abu Dhabi Stem Cell Center, it gives you the neshama yetera for this agreement. You understand that you're doing something which is more important than this agreement. I think that our governments, they're pulling the bridges, but it's our role as business leaders to cross them and to build these relationships. We should do it very carefully. We should do it the way that we're going to build it to make sure that we are building the trust, and it's not like any other deal that we are negotiating. And from there, I believe and we hope we are seeing more discussions and negotiations in other countries in the region, and we hope that we'll continue to do that. So I'm very excited about that. As you said, we have much more in common than difference, and just beautiful. So I'm very optimistic about these relationships, but our role as business leaders is to build it properly and to make sure that we are getting the trust one of each other. So it's going to take time. We're not going to see thousands of agreements and things are happening immediately, but I think with a few months, we're going to start to see the fruits of this discussion negotiations. We're seeing that, so I'm optimistic that my colleagues and many other companies will enjoy this peace agreement, which is amazing.
That's fantastic. And I can share from my experience. When you sit with the younger generation and the leaders, and you really talk to them on the eye-to-eye level, you really understand how deep and strategically they think. They're not looking for short-term gains. They're really looking to build a relationship and to do the co-creation. It's not only about the bilateral trade. Let's have some figures. So, Sam, we all know the figures. We have over 130 LOIs that were signed within the first year. We exceeded over $1.4 billion in the bilateral trade. With the UAE, with Morocco, we just started and it's increasing to over 30 million. Bahrain, it's only the baby steps that we're going forward. With Kosovo, which we had a relationship. But those numbers will not really move the needle when it comes to the economic to both countries or to the bilateral country relationship. But when we look at the region, that now we're exposed to over 2.5 billion people, new economy for us. It's a gateway to the whole region that will prosper. And we looked at the numbers. We said that only for Israel, if we work properly with the 8 countries of the Abraham Accord, including Egypt and Jordan, it can contribute over $146 billion in the next 10 years. That's doubling our export. That can create a real impact, not only on Israel, to every one of the countries. And I believe the leaders understand that the co-creation is a very critical factor in building the relationship. And so, you had such an important role working with all the ambassadors, with all the countries. What do you think? How do you feel about it?
I think you had exactly a great description of what it is right now. If I want to describe with one word what we have been through the last year is the word and the term connectivity. The potential of great connectivity that we have figured out after we signed the agreements in the last year and a half is amazing. And you know, you're responsible, Adi, for the figures. We do see the ground based on agreements and potential between the states, and it's beyond our imagination. The first facts of, I think, even establishment of such kind of mega deals, as we call them, or mega projects, we can see, you know, following the agreement that was signed between United Arab Emirates, Israel, and Jordan for it's called Blue and Green Deal, producing clean energy. We all want to stand, you know, and to fulfill our commitments for 2050 target. And in return of drinkable water to Jordan. But this is only one part of what we can actually establish. Having, as we call it, a trade corridor by land between all the states, Israel as a strategic point in between the North African countries and the Gulf countries is really optional. It's really there. It's on the map, and it's possible. This is what we are already discussing with our friends in the Gulf countries and looking into it also with our friends in North Africa. The strategic partners, Jordan and Egypt, are there, and we are also seeing flourishing relations. Ruti mentioned that before, with visits that we haven't seen in the last years. And I would like to refer to what Ambassador Bayoud mentioned before. Our Minister of Economy is in Morocco today. It's the third visit of third ministerial visit to Morocco, signing a very important agreement between us. And we are in a process of discussing together with Morocco, with Bahrain, and with United Arab Emirates, very important financial agreements that will actually make it easier for the business sectors to make these businesses and to add an additional benefit to this connectivity. This is, I would like also to refer to what Kobi mentioned before. We had beyond 400,000 Israelis visiting the Gulf countries in the last year. This is amazing. You know, we're in COVID time. And we're expecting much more now. We're having direct flights with all the countries. This is another sign of the connectivity we're talking about on the level of people to people, which is extremely important for us. It's in culture, in sport, Jewish communities in the Arab countries, and other fields that we are exploring together. So definitely, if we're talking, you know, if the terms that I'm thinking about are mega projects and connectivity, gas, energy, clean energies, food security and water security, it's there. There's a great potential for it. And beyond that, we're all facing the challenge of climate changes. We're going to host, the Middle East is hosting COP27 and COP28 in the following 2 years. And this is a point of, that unites us all. So I think this is another important element that puts us all together working at the same side in order to face this big challenge.
Thank you, Sausam. Ruti, and this is for you. In your position and in the Knesset, what do we have to do as a state of Israel that the relationship will be beyond politics, beyond administration in the US, because it should be sustainable and deeper in our roots? What would you recommend us to do?
Well, first of all, you know, we put our minds together. It's the leaderships of such countries that have reached amazing heights, and the foresight of your leaders, and I must say the foresight of the previous government and the previous administration, and the courage of the current administration in the US to embrace this agreement is, first of all, I would say the ground rule of what we need. It's the first stepping stone. We need to make it into an action plan. So we all say beautiful words, and this is beyond beautiful. You know, when I landed in the first time in the UAE, And in Morocco, I haven't been to Bahrain yet, I admit, but you know, I heard people in the terminal saying Israel aloud. Israel, Israel, passports, Israeli passports. I was in shock. Believe me, in Egypt, you say Israel, Israel, quietly. You don't say this out aloud. And suddenly it was like a pride. It was something, this is the beginning. Beautiful words, beautiful foundations. Then we have the dollars, we have the economy. It's a good engine. But at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to pass it on to the next generation. Another deal and another deal won't pass it on to the next generation. We need an anchor. For an anchor, we need an action plan. For an action plan, we need to put the brilliant minds that we have in those countries, and I include Kosovo, and I include more countries in the south of Europe, in different parts of the globe, and Egypt, and Jordan, and other countries that we won't mention their names, but we all know them. To put our brilliant minds together and to really make things happen, out of the box things, crazy things. For example, we're going to the moon together soon. So can't we create employment opportunities for minorities in Israel in the south, for example? Is it completely out of the box and so crazy that's unbelievable? Can we not create clean energy in order to create a win-win-win situation? You know, cheaper electricity, job creation, and the fact that we are going to have the desert flourish. Our desert in the south is yearning for this. Saudi Arabia is yearning to be green. Can we not think out of the box? With our brilliant minds, we have more than Israel, more than the UAE, more than Morocco, more than Bahrain, more than Kosovo. We have all of these minds put together because of interests, the engine, the money, but also the interests, the geostrategic interests. We can create uplifting, out of this world solutions. And that we should give as a gift to the next generation, not just deals.
Thank you, Ruthie. Since we have to do final statements, one statement to you. Kobe, what's your last statement?
Prepare for the best. Good time ahead.
Yaki?
I must disagree here. No, just saying that if it's not going to have the business rationale, if it's not going to make sense, it will be difficult to build projects just for the sake of the collaboration.
No.
So we
the
are-
dollars or the engine, certainly.
So we need to build projects that make sense economically, that will be green, that will be... My team next month is going to visit about sustainability of food tech in the Emirates.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's a great project, makes sense, let's work together. So I believe that this is something that joining forces, but others, things that are real, solid, and sustainable for the long term.
Thank you, Yaki. Savsan?
Managing our relationships for the benefits of the people of the region.
That's wonderful. And I want to say something in regard to COVID. COVID-19 has proven to us that we're all equal, we're all vulnerable. There's no difference. It doesn't differentiate between genders, religions, color, wealth. We're all equal. And that means that now our generation equally has to make the difference. Thank you.
So I just want to say, I don't even know, it's not working. I have a loud voice, so I'll be okay. I want to thank our panel for all of their comments. It was really fabulous to hear how they really think that we can change things for the next generation, whether it's in tourism, whether it's in cell biology, whether it's in economic agreements, that it all begins with trust, and it all begins with people-to-people relations, that we really can make a difference in the future for the region and for all of our countries working together. So it was a very inspirational message, And I won't forget the $146 billion either. So as a token of our appreciation, we want to give to our speaking guests this lovely tea box reminiscent of Jerusalem, and we really want to thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Now you're in for a very special treat. I know it's a little late, but I'm telling you, this will be worthwhile. The Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra was going to do a special concert, but because of COVID regulation, we couldn't go there, so they came here. The Chamber Orchestra of the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra is going to appear right next door, after which you get dessert as well. But if you go next door through that door, it's a brief performance, but I think very worthwhile. That was arranged by a man named Yehuda Zaretsky, who unfortunately right now is in very serious condition in Hadassah Hospital, having cancer and COVID conditions that unfortunately are very serious, I just heard. His son is actually coming here from the hospital to sing. He will do a musical piece together with the orchestra. It won't be long, but I think it'll be extremely worthwhile for everyone. And afterwards, the room across the hall will be open for testing, so you don't have to do it tomorrow morning like you did yesterday. Everybody gets tested each night. You don't have to be tested. You failed anyway, right? So, but but the most positive people on earth. And as Diane said, we're really grateful for everything. So if everybody would please go through that door, just take a seat. There aren't that many seats, so if everybody can please be seated. The orchestra is there, and it'll be a beautiful special Jerusalem program that I think you will all enjoy very much.
And again, please be sure to get tested before you go up to your room in the same room as last night, after the show, or before you go up to your room. Thank you.